Hello, everyone. Today you're joining Miss Grimes for reading Chester and Gus, pages 84 through 97. Page, page 84, non-breakthroughs. It's Monday when I finally get to go back to school. Sarah tells Gus, Chester will only be there for 2 hours. He won't stay the whole day. We're doing this a little bit at a time so everyone can adjust. It's not me Sarah's worried about. She ruffles my ears and touches my nose and whispers into the top of my head, "You're a good dog, aren't you?" She's worried about Gus. This morning he woke up with that wonderful smell all over his bed. It made her sad, so I sat near her while she changed the sheets. I don't mind the smell, I try to tell Gus. In fact, I like it. But he either isn't listening or he can't hear me. It's hard for me to predict what he hears and what he doesn't. Maybe he's, top of page 85, answering and I can't hear him. Ever since our joke at school, we haven't talked to each other at all. I tried to tell him, "Good job on telling me to pray at school. You made your mom really happy." He didn't answer me, or else I couldn't hear him. I'm starting to think I know how Sarah feels. It's sad to have something feel like a breakthrough, and then maybe it's not. Miss Palmer, page 86. I'm surprised it turns out that you can learn a lot going to school. For instance, I learned the reason Miss Winger waited for so long before letting me come to school wasn't because of any kids in class. It was because of Miss Palmer next door, the other fifth grade teacher who sometimes says, loud enough for me to hear, that she doesn't believe in therapy dogs. Most of Miss Winger's class goes over to her room for math, but I never go because she says no dogs are allowed in her class. I overheard her talking to Miss Winger. I can't control what you do, Marianne, but no, that dog isn't coming into my classroom. He's a distraction, that's all. There isn't any real work he's doing. Page 87. Even though Miss Winger said, okay, that's fine, I'll keep him here with me then, and Miss Palmer wanted to keep talking about it. It's like all that read to a dog nonsense. You want kids to practice reading out loud to someone who won't interrupt, give them a stuffed animal. But a dog who's not listening and is only going to get up and walk away? No, thank you. I remember Penny taking me to a few library sections of Read to a Dog sessions. I loved those stories. I never wanted to get up and walk away. If I could talk to Mrs. Parker, I'd tell her not enough people read to their dogs. I have a feeling that if I had more stories to read, I'd understand more about the humans I love. Some subjects, like math, are too hard for me to understand, and other subjects, like the story of Christopher Columbus, aren't. Apparently, most people think Christopher Columbus discovered America, but he really didn't. But he didn't really. There were a lot of people who already lived here. He just walked in and said, I'll take this, and he did. I'm also learning the days of the week and months of the year. As a dog, you hear those names all the time, but no one ever explains them. Fifth graders know the calendar already, but they're tracking the moon cycle every night on, turn the page 88, the calendar. They're tracking the moon on the calendar. I already know all about the moon, but now I understand what yesterday means and tomorrow. Before, I thought those were names of days I never understood, and I never understood why they happen so often. At school, it's easy to see how different Gus is from other kids his age. Other kids talk to each other in the hall before school starts. In class, after the bell rings, they use their faces to make jokes. They widen their eyes or blow out their cheeks and crack each other up. I don't understand most of it. All I know is that Gus can't do any of this. At school, he never laughs at what the other kids are doing. Instead, he laughs at things going on inside his head. At recess, I stay with Gus as much as possible, but he's earned time with his sparkly pen. He won't do anything except sit on a bench and wiggle the pen back and forth, fast and in the corner of his eye. If I talk to him, he doesn't hear me, or at least he doesn't answer. Why do you wiggle your pen so much, I say? Nothing. Maybe you should play with other kids a little. Nothing. It's like he goes into a trance with his pen. He can't see or hear anything when he's got his pen. Turn the page, page 89. Mama. For a while, I thought Sarah was right, that Gus didn't have anything at school he liked very much. School makes him so nervous he walks on his toes with his legs really straight wherever he goes, the same way he walked around me in the beginning. Walking like this means he doesn't look where he's going. Usually he doesn't bump into anything because everyone sees him coming and gets out of his way. If they don't see him, I nudge his excuse me, I nudge his leg with my nose, which makes him stop. Then he waits for a while before he starts walking again. Sometimes he walks so slowly, his teacher's aide, Ms. Cooper, has to say, "Come on, Gus, we need to keep going." Ms. Cooper is younger than the other teachers. Sometimes, turn the page, top of page 90. Sometimes I think she's scared that if she says the wrong thing, Gus might have a tantrum. So she never pushes him too hard or makes him walk too fast. I'm pretty sure Gus walks like this because he doesn't like that he's going to Miss Cunningham's room for speech therapy or Miss Watusik's room for occupational therapy or Mr. Foster in the gym to practice catching a ball. Gus can't do most of the things they're trying to teach him. In OT, he practices handwriting, which he hates. In speech therapy, he practices using a talking computer, which has a voice he can't stand. He covers his ears every time it speaks. Miss Cunningham hasn't noticed, but I have. And what does it matter if Gus can catch a ball? He'll never do it again after he learns. I'm not surprised that he walks slowly to all these places. It means he has to spend less time once he gets there, which is smart of him. There's one place that isn't like this for Gus. He doesn't have to be told to keep walking or hurry up. His legs never stiffen up on the way there. That place is the cafeteria, but he doesn't love it for the reason I do, because of the smells and the food that sometimes falls on the floor between my paws. Gus loves the corner behind the trash cans where people, turn the page, top of page 91, where people are supposed to sort the things on their trays into compost and trash. In that corner, there's a magic rolling mat that carries trays through a window. I can't see the mat, but it's how I heard Gus describe it in his mind. Sometimes I hear his thoughts, even if he's not talking to me. He's saying it loud enough in his mind for me to hear, so I guess. Magic rolling mat. Bye-bye tray. I can see the tray move and then disappear. It's a good trick. If I was younger and not trained, I might even bark at it because it scares me a little seeing things disappear. But that's not Gus's favorite part. His favorite part is when the face of a woman, brown like me, with silver hair, peeks through the black plastic ribbons and smiles at him. Every day she smiles and says the same thing. "How's my boy?" She has a beautiful smile, even though she doesn't have as many teeth as most people do. "You come on back here now and say hello to me." She always waves and he always walks around the corner to the doorway of her room where she stands and waits for him. Her name is Mama, and she wears a white apron over a long, brightly colored dress. "You stand right here and keep me company," she says. Turning the page, page 91, top of page 92. Her voice has an accent because she's from Jamaica, she told Gus once. That's why she doesn't mind the heat of this job or the steam either. "Reminds me of home," she says. I don't know if she can hear Gus talk to her the way I can. At first, I thought she must because she answers the questions I know he'd ask. "I can't put this tray in yet. I need to fill it with more glasses," she'll say. Or, "Almost ready with silverware." "Not quite." Gus loves those updates. He loves her machine with its steam and all the buttons and hissing sounds. He'd like her to show him exactly how it all works, but he doesn't know how to ask her out loud. Still, she understands and shows him parts of it. "This button here, that starts the dryer," she'll say. Gus loves the machine and the steam and the trays on the rolling mat, but mostly, I think, he loves Mama. She's the only adult in the school that I've heard him talk to on his own. I've only heard him say a few words to her, but that's more than he says to anyone else. unless he has to for a sticker on his reward star chart. It's sometimes hard to hear, but I know he's said, hello, mama, at least once. I know he also said dog and touched the top of my head. Turning from page 92 to the top of page 93. Another thing I've noticed is that Miss Cooper never sees any of this. She stands in the hall while Gus comes in here, but she never watches what's happening. Usually she uses this chance to look at her phone. Sometimes I think Miss Cooper is more interested in her phone than she is in Gus. She's definitely not as interested in Gus as I am because she doesn't see the way Gus and Mama talk to each other with their eyes and their smiles. She's never noticed that Gus does have something he loves at school. I wish I could tell Sarah. I wish Sarah could see the way Mama and Gus smile at each other. I wish she knew that Gus once said hello and introduced me. He never gets stickers or stars for doing any of that. He gets smiles from Mama, which is all he wants. I know it would be a relief to Sarah if she knew this because it's not just something he loves, it's someone. Turn the page, page 94. Fright Fest. And for this, you can go to the next recording on my page. Now, you know what? I'll just go ahead and rate it. Fright Fest. On Saturday, Sarah gets up early. Sarah gets Gus up early. When he's sitting at the table for breakfast, she said, "Today's the day, Gussie. We're going to Fright Fest." This surprises me. Fright Fest, I think. Obviously, Gus understands what she's saying, and he's excited. He rocks back and forth in his chair so much, he almost falls over. He doesn't notice when I say Fright Fest. What's that? Sarah doesn't help. She keeps smiling and saying, "Remember last year when you walked right up to that zombie holding an axe?" More rocking and a squeal from Gus. A zombie holding an axe, I say. I want someone to explain this to me. Remember the lady who gets her head chopped off? Sarah laughs as if this is all very funny. Gus laughs too. I was thinking we should bring Chester with us this time. That way we don't have to worry about you getting lost in the crowd, right, Gus? Me, I think. Walking around with zombies and headless women? Even Mark isn't so sure. Oh, even Mark isn't sure. You want to bring Chester to Fright Fest? Why not? If Gus loves it, why shouldn't Chester? Plus, Chester's been trained for this. If Gus holds his leash, he can't wander too far without Chester sitting down and waiting for us to catch up. I look over at Gus. I can tell he's excited. If his chair was a rocket, he'd push the blast off button right now. Sarah leans closer and whispers to Mark. He loves it so much, Mark, remember? In the car, I can't help myself. I keep asking Gus questions. What's a zombie? What happens to the woman without her head? He doesn't answer, but he laughs and imitates the sounds zombies must make. I don't know if it's the right sound because I've never met a zombie. I've only heard people talk about them on TV. Page 95, turning the page. Top of page 96. Just hearing people talk about them, though, was scary enough for me. Mark is driving, so Sarah turns around and explains it all to me the way she does sometimes. I think it's her way of reminding Gus what to expect. It's a regular amusement park, Chess, with roller coasters and bad food, but for the month of October, every Saturday, they have people dress up like ghosts and ghouls and walk around scaring people. Did she say food? I asked Gus. Halo, Gus says, but not out loud. I don't understand. He laughs and rocks, more excited than I've ever seen him. Sarah says, they also have the thing where you can ask at guest services for a light stick halo if you don't want people to scare you. Do you remember that, Gus? We got one for you, and then you kept taking it off because you wanted those people to get closer to you. He remembers, he's giggling, but I can hear him. I remember. They must be funny, I say to Gus. It must be okay. Yes, they're funny, Gus says. You'll laugh, Chester. I know you will. Page 96, top of page 97. He's forgotten dogs don't laugh. We do other things like jump around and lick hands, which is what I do now because it's the first time he's ever used my name. It's so great, he says. So great. And that ends Chester and Gus, pages 84 to 97.